Hi, in this video, I'm going to walk through how we can kind of create our own two-pick structures. And so two-pick structures are something we used a lot in this project, A Fabric That Remembers. And they're essentially a way to get different color blocked regions um, on your pattern when you're just throwing consecutively two different colored yarns. So I found them as a really just useful way to add texture and color to a weave. But what's also really interesting is we found that if you just throw a resistive yarn at every pick in a two pick structures, oftentimes these structures are really good as force sensors. So here's actually a close up of what those look like. And you can see this is like a two pick bird's eye here. And this is what we're using in the project to actually go ahead and measure where someone is pressing. So you can see where I press the fabric, it's lighting up on the phone in accordance to where I press. Okay, so let's start playing with some structures, and I'll walk you through a little bit in the AdaCAD mixer, um, the process of doing this. And so essentially, when I am trying to experiment with a two-pick structure, let's go ahead and just make it a two-pick bird's eye. Let's say I have a twill, and I'm going to actually take this twill and make it into a bird's eye. So I'm going to mirror it, make another copy, and I am going to actually go ahead and invert one of those copies. I'm sorry, not invert, I apologize. I'm going to flip it. Let's see, go ahead and I'm going to flip horizontal here. Okay, and then I'm going to overlay them. So that's just going to put one on top of the other. And so this bird's eye, isn't a total bird's eye. It should probably be a little bit bigger. So I can go ahead and just play with that original structure until I get something that maybe looks a little bit more interesting. And if I want to see what that looks like repeated, I can either just pull it into a rectangle option, or I can use this tile feature and just tile a bunch of them together. So here we go. Okay. What happens actually, since I'm getting these areas where they're all joined up, it looks like it should be, I should trim like one of those off, or maybe make it, here we go. I can kind of play with the structures to see. That's looking a little bit better. So I just offset the overlay so they lay a little bit differently. Okay, so I have that base structure, and this is a single pick structure, meaning that if I were to just weave one color and I had a black warp and I wove white in the weft, you might see something that looks a little bit like this. But I actually want to weave two colors, and I want the first bird's eye to show mostly on the front face, and the second bird's eye to show mostly on the back face. So what I'm actually going to do here, I'm going to get rid of our tile just for a second. I'm going to actually mirror this structure. And I'm going to create, again, another copy of it. And the reason I'm mirroring it and not copying it is because mirroring will track all the changes. If I just duplicated this, oops, and moved it, and then I changed my twill, it wouldn't change the one I've duplicated. So I kind of want to keep it in this flow so that it's all linked up. So this is a much more like a computer programming way to think about weaving, in my opinion. All right, so I've created these mirrors. And to create a two-pick structure, all I do is actually invert the pattern. so that basically we'll have one yarn that's going to be on the front face and one yarn that's floating across the back face. But then I want their areas where they interlace to not line up, because if they line up, it's all going to get jumbled together. And so you kind of want to split the interlacements on the different layers. So we can do that here by shifting left. And I'm just going to move the structure over. So it's the same structure, but it's just shifted a little bit so that its interlacements aren't totally aligned with the original interlacements. Then, to actually make this into a two-pick structure, I'm going to interlace them together. So the interlace feature basically grabs one pick from each segment and alternates them together. All right, so that's a two-pick structure that I actually use to make this, this area of sensing right here. So now that's something you can try. And you see that we have a lot of different structures here that we played with. One of them that I liked a lot was just a two-pick rib. And so if you want to maybe try what a rib might look like, we could come in here and let's say make it a 7-5 rib. I found that if they're a little uneven, it was kind of visually interesting. I'm going to detach that bird's eye there, and I'm going to plug in the rib. And looks like it's having a little trouble updating, so I'll just go ahead and disconnect that and reconnect that. Again, these are little errors that I plan to fix. Okay, so that's one way that we could actually interlace those. Although with the ribs, what's kind of nice is if you leave them just as their structure and you throw a different color, they kind of naturally take on that two-pick quality. All right, with that, I will leave you, but maybe just for fun, I'll come back in here and start playing just with the different parameters. So make it a little bigger, make it a little bit fatter. Come down here and you can see they've updated, but that we might also have to adjust in different ways. Here we go. And I will tile this so I can see what it looks like all together. Another thing you can do here, which is kind of nice, is if you want to add the slope feature, that actually takes the entire draft and kind of shifts it in a direction. So if we shift each row by one, we get that. And so you can kind of skew it or angle it or make some interesting kind of glitch patterns. I just find those visually a little bit interesting. So yeah, if we wanted to then go ahead and test this weaving on our TC2, what I would do here is plug in however many wefts I have. I'm going to test 100 picks. I'm going to come all the way over here, plug this in, and then I'll go ahead and just add a selvage. And my selvage, my machine's 30 picks per inch. So I'm going to make my selvage 30 picks wide, just to have an inch wide selvage. And since I'm throwing two colors, I'm going to change this to 2 so that I'm making sure to catch each pick. And now I can go ahead and zoom out and find my design again. Here it is. So I could go ahead and just export this and save it to my machine, but what I'm going to do for now is actually save the whole file so that you can actually open it and play with it. All right, thank you so much. Happy weaving.